The story opens by introducing a guy named Tom Hansen, a young man from Margate, New Jersey, who currently works at a greeting card company in Los Angeles. Tom is actually an architecture graduate with big dreams of becoming a famous architect. But like many other grads, he didn't find a job in his field right away. After college, Tom was unemployed for quite a while until he was finally forced to take a job writing greeting cards just to make ends meet. Even though the job was far from his dream, Tom tried to be grateful because at least he had a steady income. Tom grew up with the strong belief that his life would only truly be happy once he found his true soulmate. This romantic belief was shaped by his habit of listening to sad pop songs from British bands and watching the movie The Graduate way too often, which he totally misinterpreted as a perfect love story. To Tom, true love was a destiny that was sure to come one day. On January 8th, Tom's monotonous life changed completely. That morning, the company boss introduced his new assistant to the whole team. Her name was Summer Finn, a girl who had just moved from Shinnecock, Michigan. Summer had blonde hair with a bright smile, average height and weight, and a shoe size slightly above average. Statistically speaking, Summer was just an ordinary girl like any other, but to Tom, there was something different about her. Summer herself had a background that shaped her outlook on life. Since childhood, she witnessed the destruction of her parents' marriage, which ended in a bitter divorce. That experience made Summer skeptical about the concept of true love and long-term commitment. The only two things she loved were her long black hair during high school and how easily she chopped it all off without feeling any regret whatsoever. Summer believed in freedom, not in complicated emotional bonds. There was something interesting about Summer that couldn't be explained logically. Her presence always brought a strange effect to her surroundings. When she worked part-time at the Daily Freeze during college, the ice cream shop sales increased by 212% for no apparent reason. Every apartment she rented was always offered at 9.2% below market price. Even the bus she rode always had an average of 18 more passengers than usual. This was a phenomenon known as the Summer effect. Tom's first real interaction with Summer happened in the office elevator a few days after she arrived. Tom was listening to the Smiths on his headphones when Summer, standing next to him, suddenly said, "The Smiths? I love the Smiths." Tom could barely believe his ears. This pretty girl actually had the same taste in music as him. Summer went on to say that he had great taste. That simple sentence made Tom's heart race. Since that moment in the elevator, Tom couldn't stop thinking about her. Tom immediately spilled the beans about the meeting to his work besties, Mackenzie and Paul. He was super excited, explaining how much he had in common with Summer. They both loved indie music, obscure bands, and had a unique outlook on life. Tom was convinced this was a sign from the universe that they were meant to be. But Mackenzie and Paul gave him a warning instead. They said Summer was known to be stuck up and cold, not easy to approach, especially for an average guy like Tom. There was even a rumor that Summer was only into rich and successful men. Tom also told his little sister, Rachel, who was still in middle school. Even though she was young, Rachel turned out to have a much more realistic view than her brother. She reminded Tom that just because someone likes the same crap as you doesn't mean she's your soulmate. But Tom ignored all those warnings. He had already fallen hard. A few days later, Tom felt like his relationship with Summer was over before it even began. In the elevator, when Tom said hi and asked how her weekend was, she just gave a short, flat, "Good." Tom interpreted this as a sign that Summer wasn't interested in him anymore. He imagined Summer ending her weekend with some handsome guy she met at the gym, probably someone richer and more successful. Mackenzie and Paul tried to cheer him up, but Tom had already decided to back off and stop chasing Summer. But fate had other plans. One day, Tom went to the copy room to grab some documents. Summer suddenly walked into the same room. The two of them were alone. Without warning, without a word, Summer walked up to Tom and kissed him. Tom was so shocked he almost dropped all the papers he was holding. That spontaneous kiss changed everything. It was right there in the copy room that Tom and Summer's relationship truly began. A big opportunity popped up when Mackenzie organized an office karaoke night at a bar. At first, Tom was hesitant to go, since he wasn't exactly the type who liked singing in public. But Mackenzie convinced him by mentioning that everyone from the office would be there, including Summer. Tom finally agreed to go. That night turned out to be one of the most memorable moments of his life. Summer got up on stage and sang a song with an incredibly beautiful voice. Tom was mesmerized watching her sing with so much soul. After the karaoke wrapped up, they all stumbled out of the bar, a little tipsy. Outside the bar, a totally wasted Mackenzie accidentally spilled the beans that Tom liked Summer. Tom panicked and acted all awkward. Summer smiled and asked if it was true. Tom, unable to lie anymore, admitted that he did like her, but quickly added, as a friend. Summer looked deep into his eyes and said she was happy being friends with him too. That word, friend, should have been a red flag, but Tom was way too happy to even notice. Their first date was pretty unique. They went to IKEA and pretended to be a newlywed couple shopping for furniture for their new home. They wandered through the bedroom, dining room, and kitchen displays with wild imaginations. "Darling, our home is so beautiful, isn't it?" Summer said, laughing. Tom played his role perfectly, calling Summer darling and discussing which sofa would fit their living room best. In the middle of that fun role play, they sat down in one of the dining room displays and had some cake. Then she got serious, looked at Tom, and told him she wasn't really looking for anything serious. She didn't want any pressure, no demands, no binding commitments. Summer explained that she preferred just enjoying the ride, having fun without any labels or expectations. Tom, who had already fallen hard, answered with a smile, saying that was fine by him. "Let's just see where it goes," Tom said, but deep down, he was hoping Summer would change her mind over time. They ended the date that night by going back to Summer's apartment. Tom was super nervous because this was the moment he had been waiting for. In the bathroom, he gave himself a pep talk in the mirror. "Relax, she's just a girl. Just a girl." But when he stepped out of the bathroom and saw Summer waiting for him on the bed, Tom knew this was no ordinary night. They spent the night together for the first time. The days that followed were the absolute best of Tom's life. He felt like he was floating on cloud 9. Every little thing about Summer made him fall deeper in love. He loved her smile, her cheerful laugh, the way she licked her lips before speaking, the heart-shaped birthmark on her neck, and even the way she slept on her side. Tom felt like Summer made him the best version of himself. For the first time ever, Tom felt like his life was precious and full of meaning. They spent time together doing all sorts of things, watching classic movies, discussing artists like Magritte and Hopper, and even talking about bananas and fish for 20 minutes without getting bored. Tom felt like he and Summer were a perfect match, like two puzzle pieces completing each other. Mackenzie and Paul, seeing the change in Tom, could only shake their heads. They knew Tom was getting way too deep in his feelings. Tom took Summer to his favorite spot, a bench on a hill with a breathtaking view of Los Angeles. From there, they could see various skyscrapers and historic buildings. Tom enthusiastically pointed them out one by one, explaining their history and architecture. "That's the Fine Arts Building, designed by Walker and Eisen, two of my idol architects," Tom said. He pointed out the Continental Building, built in 1904, LA's first skyscraper. Summer listened with full attention. But what made Tom a little sad was the amount of empty parking lots sitting between those beautiful buildings. "There's so much beauty here, but people don't notice it. If I were given the chance, I'd make them notice." Summer smiled and said, "Show me how." Tom was confused because he didn't have any paper to draw on. Summer held out her arm and said, "Use my arm." Tom then drew his dream landscape right on Summer's arm, explaining how he'd arrange the buildings to maximize sunlight, how he'd create green, open spaces in the middle of the city, and how he'd make Los Angeles a more beautiful place. But behind all that happiness, Tom started feeling uneasy about their undefined relationship status. His friends kept asking, "What exactly is the deal with Tom and Summer? Are they dating? Are they just friends with benefits?" Tom didn't know the answer himself. One day, while walking to the movies, Tom built up the courage to ask, "Summer, what are we exactly?" Summer looked at him casually and replied, "I don't know. Who cares? I'm happy. You happy?" Tom nodded. "Yeah, I'm happy." Summer smiled. "Good. That's all that matters." Tom tried to accept that answer, even though there was a small doubt lingering in his heart. Rachel, Tom's sister, gave him some very clear advice. Bro, if you don't know what you guys are, you better ask directly. Don't let yourself stay in uncertainty. But Tom was scared. He was afraid that if he asked too many questions, Summer would just leave him. The first crack appeared when they went to a bar with some work friends. The atmosphere that night was super lively and fun. But then, a stranger approached Summer and tried to hit on her. The guy looked confident and handsome. He tried to flirt with Summer using all sorts of cheesy pickup lines. Summer politely turned him down, but the guy wouldn't give up. When Tom tried to step in and defend Summer, saying they were together, the guy actually insulted Tom. "How can you date a guy like this?" he asked Summer while looking down on Tom. Tom, feeling the need to defend their honor, tried to stand up to fight him, but Summer got mad at Tom instead. Outside the bar, in the pouring rain, they had a huge fight. "Why do you have to play the hero? I can handle it myself." Tom was confused. "I was just defending us. I'm your boyfriend, right?" Summer glared at him sharply. "We're not dating, Tom. We're just friends." Those words stabbed Tom's heart like a knife. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. They went home in silence, their relationship feeling cracked for the first time. Tom spent the next few days in misery. He decided not to apologize because he felt he hadn't done anything wrong. He also promised himself he wouldn't care about Summer anymore. But that resolution didn't last long. A few days later, Summer came to apologize. They made up, and their relationship went back to being lovey-dovey like before. Even more than that, Tom's work performance improved drastically because of how happy he was. His boss was impressed and trusted him with important projects. Tom felt like his life was finally running perfectly. The peak of their closeness happened when Summer invited Tom to her apartment for the second time. But this time was different. They didn't just spend time getting physical, they actually opened their hearts to each other. Summer shared things she had never told anyone before. She talked about a weird dream she had where she was flying alone in the sky. In the dream, she ran as fast as she could until her feet no longer touched the ground. She flew freely, feeling safe and happy. But then she realized she was still alone up in the air, and she woke up. Tom listened intently. He felt this was the moment where the walls Summer had built were slowly coming down. Summer said a very important sentence. "I've never told this to anyone." Tom felt special. He felt like Summer had finally opened her heart to him. He was convinced their relationship would develop into something more serious. But that happiness didn't last long. On day 290 of their relationship, everything changed. Without warning, without a clear reason, Summer suddenly became very cold. She didn't smile at Tom anymore, didn't reply to his messages enthusiastically, and didn't look happy when they were together. Tom was confused and worried. He tried asking what was wrong, but Summer just gave short answers saying everything was fine. In the middle of a meal, Summer dropped a crushing bomb. "Tom, I think we shouldn't see each other anymore. Let's just be friends." Tom was speechless. He felt his world crumbling. "Why? What's wrong? Did I do something wrong?" Summer shook her head. "It's not your fault. I just feel like we don't click anymore." Tom tried to convince her otherwise, but Summer had made her final decision. A few days later, Summer even resigned from the greeting card company. She just left without giving Tom any further explanation. Tom fell into a deep depression. He couldn't focus on work, couldn't eat well, and even the favorite movies he used to watch didn't interest him anymore. Mackenzie and Paul tried to cheer him up, but Tom was wallowing in his sadness. His boss, seeing Tom's condition getting worse, moved him to the sympathy and condolences card division. "Maybe you need a work environment that suits your current emotional state." Tom accepted the transfer without protest. He felt the division was actually perfect for him while he was grieving. Mackenzie and Paul tried to help Tom move on by introducing him to a new girl named Autumn. They set up a blind date. But during the date, Tom just vented about Summer. He talked about all their beautiful memories, all the moments that made him fall in love with her, and all the confusion he felt about why Summer left him. Autumn, who was actually a nice and understanding girl, finally gave up and ended the date early. A turning point came a few months later. Tom got a wedding invitation from a colleague. He didn't plan on going at first, but Mackenzie tricked him by saying he would tag along. Turns out, Mackenzie didn't show up, so Tom had to go solo. At the party, he was totally shocked to see Summer was there too. She looked stunning in an elegant dress. When their eyes met, Summer smiled and walked over to Tom. "Tom, long time no see. How are you?" she asked in a friendly way, as if nothing had ever happened between them. They chatted for quite a while. Summer asked about Tom's job and his dream of becoming an architect. Tom told her he was still at the same company, even though he had switched divisions. Summer looked happy to hear that. Before leaving, Summer invited Tom to a party at her place the following week. "You should come. I'd really love it if you made it." Tom nodded, his heart filled with hope. The next week, Tom arrived at Summer's house with high expectations. He imagined this was their second chance. Maybe Summer invited him because she wanted to start things up again. Maybe she realized she was wrong for leaving him. With a hopeful heart, Tom rang the doorbell. But when the door opened, he saw a sight that crushed him. The house was packed with people. This wasn't an intimate get-together. It was a huge party. And what hurt even more? It was a party celebrating Summer's engagement. Tom saw Summer standing in the middle of the room with a sparkling ring on her finger, being held by a guy who looked incredibly happy. Summer introduced the man as her fiancé. Tom felt the world spinning. He couldn't breathe. Using the bathroom as an excuse, Tom slipped out of the house and went home, his heart broken into a million pieces for the second time. The days that followed were the darkest days of Tom's life. He got drunk every night, cried, raged, and even managed to cause a scene at the office. Mackenzie and Paul were super worried. They called Rachel to help out. Rachel came over and found her brother in a really pathetic state. She sat down next to Tom and said gently but firmly, "Bro, I know this hurts, but you have to remember something. You're only remembering the sweet moments with Summer. Try remembering the bad stuff too. Try remembering all the fights, all the uncertainty, all the times she said she didn't want a serious relationship." Rachel's words triggered something in Tom's mind. He started flashing back through all 500 days of his relationship with Summer. This time, he didn't just remember the beautiful moments, but also the painful ones. He remembered how Summer said from the very beginning that she wasn't looking for a serious relationship. He remembered how Summer always avoided the labels boyfriend and dating. He remembered all the arguments that happened because Tom kept hoping for something Summer never promised. Tom realized that their relationship didn't have a strong foundation from the start. It was built on just one side's hopes and expectations. With this new realization, Tom made a huge decision. He resigned from the greeting card company and decided to go back to chasing his dream as an architect. The process wasn't easy. He had to build a portfolio from scratch, learn the latest design software, and attend workshops and seminars. Tom went to dozens of job interviews and got dozens of rejections. But this time, Tom had a different motivation. He wasn't chasing this dream to impress Summer or anyone else, but for himself. Slowly but surely, Tom's efforts paid off. He started landing small freelance projects, designing houses for clients who were satisfied with his work. His portfolio got stronger. A few months later, he got an offer for an interview at a famous architecture firm in Los Angeles. Tom was super excited. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for all this time. One afternoon, Tom returned to his favorite bench on the hill, the place where he used to take Summer to see the city view. He sat alone, enjoying the afternoon breeze and the beautiful Los Angeles panorama. Suddenly, someone sat down next to him, Summer. They looked at each other with smiles. "Hi, Tom." "Hi, Summer." They chatted casually, without any tension or bitterness. Summer asked about Tom's career as an architect. Tom told her that he was now working as a freelance architect and had just attended an interview at a big firm. Summer smiled proudly. "I always knew you had the talent for that. The drawing you made on my arm back then was beautiful." Tom then gathered the courage to ask something that had been bothering him all this time. "Summer, I want to ask you something. You used to say you didn't believe in true love. didn't believe in destiny, but now you're married. What changed? Summer paused for a moment, then smiled softly. I met my husband at a small cafe near my office. It was a total coincidence. I almost didn't go that day because the weather was bad, but I went anyway, and I met him there. We started talking, and I can't explain it, Tom. I just suddenly knew that he was the right person. Summer continued. Everything I said before about not believing in love, about not wanting commitment, turns out that was all nonsense. I just hadn't found the right person yet, and when I found him, I knew right away. Tom nodded slowly, digesting those words. So I wasn't the right person for you? Summer looked at him sincerely. Tom, you are a good person. Very good. But no, you weren't the right person for me. And I think I wasn't the right person for you either. That sentence, even though it was painful, brought peace to Tom. He finally understood. This wasn't about who was right or wrong. This wasn't about Tom not being good enough or Summer being too cold. They just weren't a match. And that was okay. Summer stood up to leave. I have to go home. My husband is waiting. Tom, I hope you find your happiness. Tom smiled sincerely. Thank you, Summer. I hope you're happy too. They parted ways peacefully, closing an important chapter in each of their lives. The interview day finally arrived. Tom showed up looking sharp with an impressive portfolio. In the waiting room, he saw a pretty girl who was also waiting for her interview turn. They sat next to each other in silence. Nervous? Huh? Asked the girl. Very, answered Tom while laughing. I'm Autumn, by the way, said the girl, while reaching out her hand. Tom shook her hand. Tom, nice to meet you, Autumn. The movie closes with Tom smiling, not with exaggerated romantic hopes like before, but with a new maturity. He learned that love isn't about finding someone perfect or changing someone into what we want. Love is about finding someone who fits us, just the way we are. And the journey to find that person, even though it's full of heartbreak and disappointment, is an important part of growing up. Tom is now ready for a new chapter in his life, with valuable lessons from his 500 days with Summer.